Are you a woman with a strong presence? Do you wish you were a woman with a strong presence? A strong presence as a woman is really important, and there can be pitfalls that come with it. Today, we're going to talk about all that comes with being a woman with a strong presence. Let's go. Welcome, I'm Kim Marie, and this channel is all about supporting women to become their most empowered selves so they can live their most fulfilling life. Now, a woman with a strong presence is something most of us want to be, and some of us already are, and sometimes wish we weren't. So today we are going to talk about what it means to be a woman with a strong presence, why being a woman with a strong presence is often challenging, why being a woman with a strong presence might feel unwanted, how to know if you're a woman with a strong presence, and how to fine-tune your presence so that you really are standing in this strong presence in just the right way. So what exactly is a woman with a strong presence? Well, first of all, presence has to do with being calm and collected, and even translates into this concept of being at hand, right? At the ready to face or deal with whatever is put in front of us. That's really a lot of what presence is. We're here, we're not out of our body, we're not excarnating and dissociating and all of those things. We're here, we're able to face it. We have a certain clarity of thought, a certain mastery of our emotions, a certain capacity to be fully embodied within our being. Now, you can find some practices around centering and grounding and presencing in my playlist by that title. So be sure to check that out because that will offer a few exercises. I'm always adding to it to help you really find that presence. Now, that idea of presence, when we're really embodied, we're really connected to who we are and how we're showing up, there's a sense of strength and solidness. It's also often counter to the way women are perceived, right? We're often perceived as being irrational, overly emotional, disconnected, flaky, whatever it is, right? There are a lot of those associations that are very different from this idea of being a woman with a strong presence. So in order to feel that we have this clear attention in our thoughts, this settledness and mastery of our emotions, this embodiment within our body, we really do need to practice those concepts of centering and grounding. And one of the most powerful tools that I have worked with is this idea of what I call the pelvic bowl. When we center and presence ourselves in the base of our pelvic bowl, we really feel the weight of our body if we're sitting in a chair, the feet beneath us if we're standing, and really notice that center of our being. That's one of many tools that we can use to find that space of presence. So why is it challenging to be a woman with a strong presence? Well, we do have a very long history of oppression as women, right? Our patriarchal dominance culture really has given us that history, and science has now shown that these old traumas, ancestral traumas, actually live in our DNA. So we carry forth this concept of feeling a threat, even when there's not necessarily always a real threat. But there is an aspect where certain things might trigger us to kind of disconnect from our body, to not be present, to not be connected to the center of our being. And that threat is very real, and we need to honor that happens. You know, a lot of times people think, well, but I'm not somebody to be afraid of, or there's no reason to think that way because that's not how it is these days, right? It's not necessarily about that. Yes, we do want to find our way toward having a very clear, intuitive discernment about what is and is not safe. And until that point, we also need to acknowledge that there really is a sense of feeling that threat within us that needs some healing, that needs some attention. Often a sense of being a woman with a strong presence is misconstrued as being arrogant, self-centered, difficult, right? We get labeled as that, especially women in the workplace where they're maybe in these more high-level management or executive positions. This is a complaint that is so often heard that, you know, when a woman says the same thing that a man might say in the workplace, it is seen differently if they say it with the same kind of passion or emotion. If a woman does it with this presence but brings all of herself, including the emotion, it's considered overly emotional or overly arrogant or you know, domineering or something along those lines. Whereas if a man were to say the same thing, then it's looked at as normal, natural. Our society has kind of done that. Now, please know, I am not saying this happens across the board in all areas with all people. It doesn't. However, we do have this history and it does result in some of these perceptions. We can even look at ourselves and how we as women perceive a woman with a strong presence, right? Do we think of them as maybe being bitchy or arrogant or, you know, overly confident or full of herself? We hear it all the time. Sometimes women can be their own worst enemies. And a lot of that is this idea of feeling threatened, feeling, you know, this kind of competitive or jealous edge to all of that. And we want to be really, really careful to be paying attention to that. Because if we want to stand as a woman with a strong presence, we need to honor when other women are doing the same, right? We need to check our judgments about what it's supposed to look like and even what it means and reconsider that. And this is really true across the board. Even for men who show up confidently, they can get misconstrued as arrogant, right? Or full of themselves. And a lot of times arrogance is a misconception put upon someone with confidence. And so we want to be really careful about that and really ask ourselves, are they just confident, right? Maybe that's not arrogance. Maybe it's just that I've never seen that. I don't see someone standing in that kind of presence or confidence very often, right? The other thing too is that it's very difficult to be a woman with a strong presence because we tend to be very full of self-doubt. And many women are also very people-pleasing and they're trying to take care of everyone else, and then they can go into their fears and their self-doubt. And these are self-saboteurs that keep us from standing in that strong presence, that sense of selfhood that we know we are able to tap into, but we struggle to stay in, to be in. And a lot of times it's just noticing that, because this does require practice. We can't flip a switch and suddenly become this strong woman showing up everywhere we go, in every domain, in every situation, right? We're gonna have to face these saboteurs, these inner shadows, these difficulties and triggers and traumas even that we've faced in order to be able to fully stand in that. That is one of the things that my Solace program for women, it's a membership program that really takes deep dives into this ever spiraling nature where we really tap into our inner wilderness and the sense of who we are so that we can meet the outer wilderness with that sense of strong presence as a woman, okay? So check out the details of that in the description. So why might we not want to be a woman with a strong presence? Well, this has a lot to do with some of the things I was mentioning about the challenges. We might not want to be misunderstood, right? Our fears might be so great that we just don't want to deal with being misunderstood or misconstrued. And that, for many of us, that's one of our biggest challenges. I know it is for me often when I feel like what I say or what I'm doing as I show up is misinterpreted, like my intentions are not seen as what they are, or somebody's projecting something else onto me. It can feel really awful to feel like you're not being seen or heard or known for who you really are. And so a lot of us really don't want to have that level of misunderstanding. We also might be afraid of not being liked, right? A woman with a strong presence often is able to speak her mind, to be very clear in her convictions, to be very committed, to speak up when something doesn't seem right, right? This is one of the most amazing powerful aspects of the feminine, is this ability to have this diffuse awareness and to really see a bigger picture. And to be able to speak it is this capacity to have that strong presence. And we often are afraid that if we do that, we're not going to be liked. We're going to be cast out. We're going to be shunned. We're going to be seen as difficult. We also might not want the responsibility that comes with a strong presence. Like, we might think that if we show up strong, maybe especially in the workplace, then suddenly we're going to have everything dumped on us. Everybody's going to want everything from us, right? They're going to give the work to us because we seem strong. We seem to know what we're doing. We seem to know how to speak about what's needed and talk about what's needed. And we have this strong presence that automatically can have people assuming that we can do more than we really can, right? But a truly strong presence is going to be able to set boundaries around that. So that's something to keep in mind, that even if we're fearing having this extra responsibility and that keeps us from having a strong presence, we have to remember that actually having a strong presence also knows when to say no, how to set boundaries, how to clear things up. We also might be afraid of facing whatever shadows come with that, because when we stand more strongly in our truth, oh my, the universe always seems to meet us with challenges. We are always given something extra to deal with. And it feels like it's just part of I always say it's being ground down on the polishing stone to become the shining gem that we are. It's like we need to be given these trials to truly stand in that strong presence. And many of us are afraid of those trials. We're afraid of facing the depths, facing the shadow, going to those places that might feel painful to face, reconnecting with these parts of ourselves that we've ignored, that we've pushed away. Again, this is all a huge part of what I do in my Solace program. So I strongly encourage you to check that out. So how do you know if you're a woman with a strong presence? Well, we talked about some of that, right? You're going to have a sense of clear thought. It doesn't mean you always know what to do and you're always 100% sure that what your thoughts are correct or are going to take you where you want to go. But usually you have this clarity of thought that allows you to be decisive, to make decisions, to feel like you can take a step forward and face whatever comes, right? You're less hesitant, less self-doubtful. You have a sense of what's around you. You're not letting these other inner voices take over. You really have a deeper sense of clarity in your thought. Another aspect is a sense of emotional mastery. This is where you're not letting your emotions get the best of you. We all have these days where nothing works out. Everything just seems to go wrong or be against us, and it's just not working. And we can fly off the handle in rage or get really anxious, or we can get really frustrated or sad and just start sobbing in a puddle on the ground, right? This is not emotional mastery. Doesn't mean you can't have emotions, but when we get so consumed in them that we can't collect ourselves and find the capacity for strong presence where it's appropriate and then let ourselves fall apart when we need to, I often will say, okay, if I've had a bad day, okay, today's a bath day. I go into the water being so symbolic of this emotional realm, and I imagine like everything just being washed away, and I find the strength to hold myself together when I need to hold myself together, because that is what emotional mastery is. It's not feeling your emotions, but it is honoring and understanding what's around you. If you have small children and you fly off the handle, that's going to hurt and impact and affect those children. And sometimes we do, so we don't need to be feeling guilty about that. Part of emotional mastery is also knowing what we've done. Like if we do fly off the handle, we apologize for it. We make it right. We make it good. This is mastery of our emotions. When we really see what we're doing and we understand what we're doing, that is part of a woman with a strong presence. She has this clarity of thinking. She has this emotional mastery. She's also very embodied, very much in her body. When we get anxious, when we get traumatized even, when we feel fear, a lot of times we want to kind of lift out of our body. We take ourselves out. If you see a woman in a crisis mode where she maybe personally isn't threatened, but she sees what's in front of her, it is unbelievable, the power of a woman's presence to be able to go in there and face whatever's there and do what's needed and be able to see the details of what's around and take care of a situation. Again, that's probably not going to happen for people in general who don't have a strong presence, who aren't able to assess a situation and remain calm in their emotions and clear in their thought. But it's also this concept of being very embodied, okay, very present to the moment. The other thing that you might consider is that if you are a woman with a strong presence, you may notice that others feel intimidated by you. That becomes a challenge. Sometimes it can feel very lonely because, as we mentioned earlier, these ideas of feeling misunderstood or the ways people interpret things. People who are struggling to find their presence or to find their sense of confidence are going to project onto those who do have presence and confidence that there's something wrong with them, right? When people are scared to get out of their comfort zone, to step out of what they know and what the norm is, then they will start to look at anything that's not the norm as being maybe a threat or something problematic. The other thing that's really cool about being a woman with a strong presence is you start to realize you don't care so much about what others think. A lot of us are spending so much time worried about what people will think. What will they think if I say that? What will they think if I show up wearing this? What will they think if I speak up or whatever, right? When we show ourselves and we know we're on purpose and we're doing what we're here to do and we're standing in that strong presence, we're not worried about what other people think. We don't care what other people think. And that's also a sign that you're a woman with a strong presence. So how can you fine-tune your presence so that you really do stand as a woman with a strong presence? Well, I already mentioned to take a look at my information on Solace. That's a powerful program to walk through and help you become stronger as a woman, stand in your truth, become the most empowered you that you are capable of being. I also have a playlist called Centering, Grounding, Presencing that has some videos on it, some meditations that can help you find more of that presence within yourself, and the concept of really feeling into that pelvic bowl. Feel your feet, feel the ground beneath you, center yourself, tune into your emotions, really presence with what am I feeling? What's going on right now? Am I all in my head or am I dropping down to see what's going on in my body? What's going on in my emotions? These are things that you can do to fine tune that presence and practice. It is not ever something where it's like, okay, I'm teaching you the concept, you do it, right? If you've been watching my channel, watching my videos, you know everything is about practice. We have to actually work at this. We actually have to apply ourselves to this and try these things and see what happens over time of consistent practice. The other thing is that we want to explore our inner wilderness. Now, I call it the inner wilderness because it can feel like a dark and scary place in there sometimes, and we don't know what we're going to meet, what kinds of beastly shadows we might have, or other aspects and elements of ourselves that we don't always face or want to face, but we have to be willing to go in there. Notice when we are going to extremes, right? Are we clinging to one idea because we're so afraid of another? Are we kind of bouncing back and forth and ping-ponging and never finding our center? Another tool that I have is called my Balance and Empowerment Cards. That is also a free download in the description, so check those out because they are so helpful for finding center and finding that balance point of true empowerment, which is so needed if we're going to be a woman with strong presence. Finally, you can get support like with my Solace program or hire a coach, talk to a friend, have a therapist, whatever seems to work for you. Be sure to check out all the resources in the description section of this video. Being a woman with a strong presence actually invites others to be and have a strong presence. That is the beauty of this work. So think less about what others are thinking and worry less about what others are thinking, and just practice standing in that presence. I hope many of these tools have helped you. I hope you find some good resources. Be sure to subscribe, click the like button, click the notification bell. It all helps to make sure more women get information like this to support them in their strength and movement toward empowerment. I'll see you next time.